If you're a fan of axe throwing games, but you're tired of the same old games of Around the World and 21, I have a fantastic new game for you. It's called Assassin, and I'm going to show you how to play it. Now, you will need a couple of supplies for this game. First off, you're going to need some sort of a piece of paper. You could use Post-it notes and just write your initials on it, or you can do what I did, go on Amazon, buy a super cheap deck of cards to play this game. Or you can just cut up a piece of paper. The size of the paper will dictate how hard or easy this game may be. The other thing that you're going to need is some way to fix those cards or piece of paper to the target. Now I'm using a staple gun, but you could use just a regular stapler or push pins or tacks or really anything that's made out of mild steel. You want to make sure not to use something that's hardened steel like nails, as it might scratch your axe blade if you were to accidentally hit it. So the first thing that you do is you choose who's going to go first. That person is then going to come and they're going to take their card or piece of paper and they're going to fix it to the target inside of the scoring rings. So for example, I'll stick my 8 here. Now I'm going to set up a 2-player game, but truthfully, this game really works better at 3 to 5 players. So if you have 2 lanes like I do, you could play up to 10 people. Okay, so I've set up 2 players. One is going to be the king, one is going to be the 8s. And what you're going to do is you're going to go back from the 12-foot throwing line, and you're going to throw in the same order in which you place cards on the board. And your goal is to be the last person standing with cards or pieces of paper still on the board. Now, there is a little bit of strategy too, and where you might want to put your cards or piece of paper. You might want to try to put them close to an opponent, so that way they don't go for your card lest they fear hitting their own. It's really up to you. Now, when you hit a card, don't forget to bring something to get out your staple or tack. You don't want to leave those things stuck in your board. Another really important rule is you must actually cut a card in order for it to count. So if your axe just folds the edge over, it doesn't count. It needs to be a clean, actual cut. Also, if you throw and your axe cuts the card but fails to stick in the target and falls, that's also not a valid hit. So the card stays on the board or may need to get put back up if it fell out. So you go back and forth until finally you're the last person with cards still on the board. Now, if you throw and hit one of your own cards or pieces of paper, sucks to suck. It does get taken off. There is one additional fun rule though. It's called rage mode, which is if your last card or piece of paper gets hit, you're not eliminated yet. You get to come up to the line and you get to throw. As long as you continue to hit your opponent's cards or pieces of paper, you get to keep on throwing. That means too, if you hit someone else's last card or piece of paper while you're in rage mode, they do not get the opportunity to go into rage mode themselves. This means you might have an example like this, where there's only 2 cards left on the board. Let's say you're the kings and your opponents are the 8s. You could go for the 8s, therefore giving your opponent one final chance to go into rage mode, hit the king, and win the game. Or if you wanted to be extra tricky, you could actually throw and hit your own king, therefore entering rage mode yourself and hitting your opponent's 8, therefore winning the game that way. Another variant I've been playing with my friends is if you have a lot of, let's say, sharp throwing instruments like throwing knives, ninja stars, or heck, even playing darts, what you can do is you can throw, and once you hit an opponent's card with one of the throwing implements, that is then retired until you've hit a card with all of the other implements, and then you can go back and choose whichever one you want. One of the reasons I think this game is so great is if you're playing with people with different skill levels, they typically tend to target the person who's the best. However, when you get that person's last card or piece of paper out, they get the opportunity to go into rage mode. And they might be feeling particularly vindictive and go after you first if just out of spite. So sometimes there's a good advantage to keeping players around as long as possible until the end of the game. While I hope that you get a chance to play my game either at a venue or home throwing targets like mine are set up, and either way, I really hope that you enjoy this. Thanks for watching.